Hi, I'm Andrew Pollack, and today I'll be talking to you a little bit about my thoughts on nuclear energy. So, what's the first thing that comes to mind when hearing the word nuclear? Could it be giant mushroom clouds, lifeless radioactive environments, or could it be something entirely different? Nuclear power has been around since the 1950s and has evolved to become a very stable competitor amongst the top three energy sources around the world today. Why then are there so many negative connotations towards nuclear power? Today I'll be talking to you about the benefits of nuclear energy, how it has evolved to be one of the top three major energy sources in the world, and why it should smother fossil fuels and other renewable energy sources in the planet's future energy supply. The term nuclear safety refers to preventing accidents at nuclear facilities, and if accidents occur, mitigating the harm to people and the environment from any radiation that is released from these plants. This definition is taken from the book Nuclear Energy, What Everyone Needs to Know by Charles Ferguson. Safety in a nuclear facility boils down to two main things: highly trained personnel and the equipment used. Having highly trained personnel who can continuously monitor equipment and perform upkeep as necessary will mitigate the risk of errors and mishaps in the nuclear environment. Equipment has come a long way since the nuclear energy has first started. These new systems have much higher standards than the old machines and are better performing than the technology from 1954 when the first nuclear power plant was instated. Accidents such as 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and Fukushima were all caused by failure to detect a fault in the system and machinery, along with human error. The newest equipment in this highly technological age can monitor machinery continuously, day in, day out, for 24 hours a day, and it will identify faults, sometimes even preemptively, making the newest nuclear facilities tremendously safer than they were when they first came out over 50 years ago. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the U.S. imports 89% of the uranium used in most of its nuclear reactors. Using this material in these facilities prevents it from being used as nuclear weapons, such as dirty bombs or atomic warheads, which could affect possibly millions depending on how big a bomb is used, and could affect anywhere from about a mile to a 45-mile radius with radioactive fallout. As you see here, this is an image from the website Nuke Map of a Russian bomb, the biggest known bomb in creation today, called the Tsar bomb. And this map shows what fallout would occur if it happened over New York City. Now we'll get on to safety. The air pollution from coal burning is estimated to cause about 30,000 deaths a year from lung disease in the United States alone, and 350,000 deaths a year in China. And these statistics are taken from a Whole Earth Discipline and Eco-Pragmatist Manifesto from Stuart Brand. For every gigawatt of power produced by coal plants, a gigawatt being enough power to power 700,000 homes in America per day, they use around 80 100-ton carts of coal, producing about 19,000 tons of carbon dioxide per day. If all of your electricity in your lifetime came from nuclear power, the waste would be enough to fit inside of a Coke can, about 2 pounds. After use in the reactors, fuel assemblies become highly radioactive and must be removed and stored in a reactor underwater in spent pool for several years. Even though the fission reaction has stopped, the spent fuel continues to give off heat and radioactive elements that create when the uranium atoms were split in the reactions. A few years after being contained in these wet fuel tanks, they get stored in dry cells and are air cooled, usually in big concrete or steel containers. The final stop for nuclear waste is supposed to be a permanent underground storage in repositories, but the U.S. currently does not have any of these high-level nuclear waste facilities for these spent fuel rods. So what about the possibility of nuclear meltdowns and widespread nuclear contamination? The possibility is considerably small in the newest nuclear facilities because of numerous redundant fail-safes and safety precautions taken by the highly trained personnel, such as scheduled maintenance procedures and regulatory requirements and oversights from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And large areas surrounding these plants restricted and guarded by armed security teams. These facilities are also equipped to deal with extreme weather and earthquakes. Right now, the world has only 3 major sources of energy: fossil fuels providing about 66% of the urban world's electricity, hydroelectric providing about 16%, and nuclear providing another 15%. Solar, wind, and other renewable energy sources aren't considered major because of their inconsistency to provide energy. On top of the 100,000 acres required for mining each year for each gigawatt fossil fuel power plant, totaling millions of square miles total, fracking ruins so much of the environment from this. And to power the U.S.'s entire energy grid, a solar-powered energy farm would require about 6 million acres of stripped land, being roughly the size of New Hampshire. And for the same energy output from a wind-powered turbine farm, you would need about 16 million acres of land, being about the size of West Virginia. Merely 3 pounds of uranium, which is the fuel used in these nuclear reactions, could power the U.S.'s entire energy needs for a year. As little as 18,000 acres alone would be used for a nuclear power plant to power the entire U.S. In conclusion, with these newest nuclear technologies, there's clearly a major reason why we should think about changing to a newer energy source from coal. Nuclear energy has way less of a footprint than all 3 of the other major sources combined, and requires less resources to produce a more reliable and stable energy than renewable resources. This is why nuclear should have a shot as the next big energy source in the U.S.